I say I think that marrying who you want to is a right that no man should have anything to do with. It's a God-given right, I think.
Happy Loving Day!
Yes! Do you feel loved? I hope so. Mm-hmm.
For those of you who do not know what Loving Day, we are going to talk about it and going to talk about being an interracial couple. We've never discussed that on our channel.
In depth, at least.
In depth, yeah. Not because we don't recognize it. Like, we recognize, us being interracial, but this channel is really about Cole's disability and raising awareness surrounding disabilities. So we...
And interability, working together and being in a relationship, what that's like, obviously.
Exactly.
If you've been here, you've seen those videos.
Yes.
But we want to talk about something different today. The loving story is one that's very close to our hearts. If you're unfamiliar with it, I'll give you a quick little breakdown. You want me to break it down all the way?
Yes, give me some history.
All right.
And them.
So, a woman, Mildred Jeter, and Richard Loving were in a county actually very close to here in Virginia, Caroline County.
Caroline, very close.
Believe it or not, I had family that lived in Caroline at one point, or at least some relations over there, which is kind of crazy to read about. This was a couple that fell in love. Mildred had some African American blood and some Native American blood as well. And then Richard was considered white. Oh, I want to say too, Mildred Jeter, part of her Native American blood was from the Rappahannock, and the Rappahannock is right by the Tappahannock, which is right by our river house.
In Mappin.
Yeah, so it's kind of weird, the connections there.
Yeah.
And they wanted to get married. But here's the thing. In Virginia, they still had laws against interracial marriages. But Washington, D.C. allowed it. So what they had to do was drive up to D.C., get married, and then they came back to Virginia, thinking, all right, we're good to go. They're woken up in the middle of the night by police. They got arrested because Virginia also had a law that you couldn't leave, go get married, and then come back, which is like...
ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous. Anyway, so they were arrested because they left, came back and got married, and they were given an option. Either you can go to jail for 1 to 3 years,
ridiculous,
or you can be banished. So they chose banishment, and they went back to Washington, D.C. The problem was, even in D.C., they faced a ton of discrimination and racism. They would be harassed, judged all the time. And eventually they got so fed up with that Mildred wrote a letter to Robert F. Kennedy. Everybody recognizes the Kennedy name. And Robert F. Kennedy at the time was the Attorney General of the United States. His office forwarded the letter to the American Civil Liberties Union, who took an interest in the case, and 2 attorneys actually decided to defend them or represent them for free, which is awesome.
Amazing.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Now, this is the part that kind of riles me up a little bit. They had to go through all of the court systems, had to take it up the notch over and over and over again because it got denied, and they just kept appealing until eventually it got to the Supreme Court. And at the Supreme Court, they ruled unanimously in favor of the Lovings. Which is awesome, right? Like, celebrate everything, like, milestone, like, that was huge, because after that, every state was forced not to have those laws and not to be able to enforce those laws. So that was huge.
Oh, yeah.
Except what riles me up about it is, how did it get denied so many times and then passed unanimously? And the judge even said, this is a quote, "Under our Constitution, the freedom to marry or not to marry a person of another race resides within the individual and cannot be infringed on by the state." Which is like, duh. It should be obvious.
Yeah.
It's a pretty crazy story, and I feel like there are examples like this where one person or one couple does something and they push and push, and then change is made for everyone. It's like Rosa Parks sitting in the front of the bus, refusing to stand up and go to the back.
And then everyone boycotting the bus for a long time after that. And even what's happening now, the protests going on and just fighting for change and fighting against, injustice and racism. So
yeah, speaking of that, this stuff is still kind of going on in a sense. States haven't been able to enforce any of these laws since like 1964 or something, I believe. South Carolina in 1998 voted to remove a section of their law that still said interracial marriages were illegal. And they polled the public, and I think 19% of the public did not want it removed. This was This was like our lifetime.
I know.
And then even
We were
worse,
born.
even worse, in Alabama, I think it was 2001 or 2002, they did the same thing where they had this rule in the books. They couldn't even enforce it by law, but it was still there, and they were like, let's just remove this. There's no need for it. And I think just over 20% of the public in that case voted to keep it. They said they didn't want it removed.
Why do you care so much about who other people date? Like, that's my thing. Like, you see that there's true love and you see that there's happiness. Why do you care so much about someone else's life and who they date? Like, be happy for people. And, like, that's what I wish people would just start being happy for other people. But we're happy about this day because, you know, this is the reason that Cole and I are able to get married as an interracial couple in Virginia, because it was not allowed in all over, you know, the United States. So it's a big day for us.
Very big day.
Yeah.
It means a lot now.
It does,
And I couldn't imagine having to do what they did, like having to leave somewhere and then face all this racist taunting, and I don't want to live in that world, but unfortunately that was the reality for them, and on some level it is still the reality.
It is still the reality.
Unfortunately, like, we still feel this online, especially is where we got it mostly. Like, we never got it like out in public until the other day.
Yeah, well, first, before I go into that, yeah, we do get a lot of comments online saying how we shouldn't have babies together.
And our baby's gonna be beautiful.
I know.
I don't know why people don't want to see our baby.
And then how Cole wouldn't be with me if he weren't in a wheelchair, because he realized that a white girl wouldn't want to be with him and only black women would date someone in a wheelchair with a disability, which is absurd.
Right.
And then, that Cole settled for me because I was black. And I'm like,
to which I say, have you seen this woman, this beautiful, majestic goddess of beauty and majesticness?
Wow, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And then comments like, I wanted to date a white man so bad that I settled for a crippled man.
Or half man.
Or half man, yeah.
Half man.
We've gotten the worst comment.
Yeah, are you going to say what I think you're going to say?
It was on one of our videos talking about being interabled.
This one was actually kind of clever.
It was clever, but so bad.
So bad.
But it said, I don't understand how they are considered interabled when they are both 3/5 of a person. Now, if y'all know the Constitution, and you know back in the day, African-American black people were considered 3/5 of a person. That is absurd that someone would say something so disgusting like that.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, so we face most of our comments against being, interracial online. We do not face too much in public until the other day when we were in our own neighborhood, unfortunately. And this man clearly did not like me and completely ignored me, gave me a disgusting look, and then waved to Cole, smiled at him, and then I tried to do the same to be nice because we're new to this neighborhood. I want to get to know people. And he just gave me a dirty look and revved up his motorcycle and sped off.
Yeah, he was driving out of his driveway on his motorcycle and was coming kind of slow as he was making the turn, gave me a big wave, and then put his hand down and went vroom, right by Charisma.
Yeah.
It took me a second because we had never been out in public and I had seen that before. And so the first time I was like, wait, what just happened? And I looked at Charisma and she looked at me and I could see on her face, I was like, okay, yeah, what happened? What I think just happened. And I was like, did I just see what I think I saw? And she was like, I was like, oh my God. And I was like, this dude lives right down the street.
I know, it's ridiculous.
And now I can't roll by that house without thinking, gosh.
Bleep, 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 bleep.
Yeah.
I'll bleep my own stuff and that's
bleep, bleep, bleep.
But no, so yeah, Cole and I discuss being interracial all the time. We discuss racism.
Yeah.
We talked about that from the beginning of our relationship. Just like, Cole's disability, there is a difference in race between the two of us. So we do talk about it. And then having children one day, we discuss that, and, our kids are going to be black. They're going to be black. And we're not saying Cole's side of the family is white, my side of the family is black. So they're going to be raised knowing both sides of the family, not one side more than the other. They're going to know their black heritage, they're going to know their white heritage, they're going to know everything.
Yeah.
But we do, talk about, one day when we have that conversation with our children about, the world's going to see you as black. And, unfortunately, things aren't amazing for African Americans, for black people in the United States. So we do have to have that conversation about, when you're pulled over, or sometimes people may not like you because of the color of your skin, because who knows? We don't know how our kids are gonna look.
Yeah.
And to be frank, I don't care. They're gonna be beautiful, and they're gonna be our kids no matter how they come out. Like,
it's that one drop. You got one drop, and that becomes who you are.
Yeah.
And
there's nothing wrong with being black, because that melanin though.
Flex on them.
Black, and I'm.
Yeah. Oh, look at that.
Guns.
Ooh. Ooh.
Trying to hit my guns.
Yeah.
Black, and I'm proud.
Do you have a license to carry those?
Oh my gosh. But yeah, we discussed like how we're gonna go about that conversation, and it is stressful sometimes because we wish things were better, but unfortunately they're not, and we're gonna do our part to educate our children, to have this conversation with our communities, within our families, and hopefully bring about change. But
well, something that you've been saying recently that I absolutely agree with is change starts in the home. So protesting makes a huge difference. Going out there and being vocal makes a big difference too, but really it's like raising your children. How are you going to raise your children? And how are you going to treat them, and what kind of conversations are you going to have around the dinner table? And I totally agree with that, and I think that with our children we're going to have a lot of those conversations so they grow up understanding. Not only understanding, but maybe we can teach them to use their voice too.
Yeah, absolutely. And interracial dating is very unique. It is, and we have like different cultures. We were raised differently. We were raised with different viewpoints, listening to different music, watching different shows.
Well, we saw that this morning too. In my neighborhood, we were pulling out today, and on one of the road signs there was taped a cardboard Black Lives Matter poster. And I thought to myself, that's the first time I've ever seen anything like that in my neighborhood. And it was cool. It was a cool moment. I was like, yes, nice. I love that. But it's a much different experience growing up.
It is. I'm hopeful that things will start to get better, and people will start having conversations within their homes and within their communities, and bringing about change, and recognizing, that there's an issue that we need to deal with and approach and talk about and fix. So
I'm looking at the man in the mirror.
I didn't know what song you're about to sing.
I'm asking him to change his ways.
Oh my gosh.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. But yeah, no, we wanted to.
I don't know why that popped into my head.
Because you're looking at the man in the mirror.
Yeah.
And change your
Tell
ways.
him to change his ways.
I know. About the labeling, like, there's nothing wrong with labeling. There's nothing wrong with seeing us how we are. Like, there's nothing wrong with saying we're interracial, because guess what? We are. Like, we're two different races. And I know people say race doesn't exist, that's man-made, but we're going to recognize the color
People
of our
say
skin.
that?
Yeah. I've heard that before.
Oh,
well, we're going to recognize the color of our skin. We don't want to be colorblind. I want you to see my blackness, and I'll see your whiteness, and we'll love
I see
each
that
other.
melanin though. I see
Who we are. And in order for other couples who are in the same situation to find us, we have to say, interabled couple, because that's what we are, and we're proud of our relationship. Yeah, we're proud of our relationship. There's nothing wrong with it.
No. And we want to share it with the world. Hey, that's why we're on YouTube.
That is why we're on YouTube.
Yeah. So if you want to start making a little bit of change in your home, and maybe your kids or your parents or your brother, sister, friends, they don't know about the loving story, maybe this is a good time to share with them. Because that made a big difference and made a big impact on our culture, and allowed couples like us to get together and do a little swirling.
A little swirling.
A little swirling.
All right, well.
All right, y'all. Thanks for watching.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and stay positive.
Yeah.
And keep loving, like the lovings.
Loving.